Somewhere last year, my center, the Jatikay Center for Human Security and Peace Building, we conducted a survey of about 300 Ghanaians. We sought to find out from them why they owned guns. And it would interest you to know that majority of them, about 85% of them, said they couldn't trust the police to protect them. So even if you have instances where criminals are emboldened to the extent that they are able to march to police station, kill an officer and release their comrades, and even in some cases like it happened in Takoradi recently, the young man is a very notorious rapist. He was able to cut his way out of cells using a blade, and I think a saw blade of some sort. So it leaves so many questions unanswered. And in some cases, when you have certain individuals, you know, in a quest to protect themselves, taking the laws into their own hands, I mean, you sometimes have no excuse not to side with them to some extent, because all the issues Prof has catalogued is not rocket science. We don't need a professor emeritus to tell us that there's the need for us to have a database of criminals or individuals who have been even involved in minor crimes. We don't need a professor, we don't need an alien to come from outer space to tell us that. We need a fingerprint database that can help tremendously in investigation. When you go to other jurisdictions, apart from the fact that they have a list of persons who have been involved in break-ins before, in some cases, they have a list of pedophiles. So if there's any act that is pedophile in nature, what they do is they generate that report and they are able to go after these persons. They ask them hard questions, and it is tremendously in the investigation process. It is worrying, and it makes us very worried as well, because the nature of our work puts us in the line of fire. I am a security person. I talk about security on a daily basis. I teach people. I even have a social media magazine program. I teach people I educate people about the need for them to protect themselves and all that. So what it means is I am putting some criminals out of business. You understand? So I could be a target. You are a journalist. Obviously, there are some, instances. Sometimes you might step on someone's toes. All right, Professor is here, Honorable is here, Sami Jemfi is here. By nature of our work, it puts us in the line of fire. So I think it's important that moving forward, like I always educate, we also have to protect ourselves. Indeed, the police population at the moment is about 32,000. That makes the police-civilian ratio, one police officer to about 900 citizens. But that it is required under the UN standards that it should be one police officer to about 500 citizens. But let us not forget about the fact that many of these officers are on peacekeeping duties. Some are assigned to how many ministers and deputy ministers. Some are assigned to MMDCs, corporate world like banks, savings and loans. So in the end, you realize that even the 32,000 is woefully inadequate, like it's way below the 32,000. So there's the need for us to also exercise some discretion in taking care of ourselves, okay? And I tell us, I educate people, the kind of information we give out about ourselves on social media is not helping, because criminals are able to use it to generate what we call profiles of us. When you wake up, they know you are awake, they know the food you eat, what time you leave for work, what time you get to work, your children, their faces, their names, what school they attend, what time you pick them up from school. And that is dangerous, because you give them the capability to even break into your home when you are not there, and they are able to, I'm sure, prepare soup, drink tea, watch TV because they know what time you would get back home. And the issue of kidnapping is becoming more worrying. Our children are constantly at risk. Please, let us protect these young ones. It's not always necessary that we let the whole world know our itinerary, that we are out of town, we are going to Dubai for holidays. Now the criminals are very accustomed to us leaving our keys under our doormats, on top of our doors, in the flower pots, etc. So please, let us also be careful with the way we manage our personal security, because the police cannot be everywhere all the time. Hence, we also have a responsibility in that regard. And back to the issue of Kennedy Japan, I think it would have helped if he, shuts up. Because politicians, just like religious figures, have a unique characteristics. I mean, they have the power to galvanize support. So whatever you say on radio or on the pulpit has a direct implication on the thinking, on the assumptions, the perceptions of your followers. So it is highly likely that someone would follow through on what Kennedy Japan has said. I'm not saying that is the case, but it's highly likely to carry out that dastardly activity. So I always indicate, look, this is not politics, but trust me, if Ghana were a serious country, Kennedy Japan would have been picked up right after making those statements. And I also, to a large extent, blame the media. I'm a member of the Ghana Journalists Association. I'm a media myself. Sometimes you bring guests into the studio, they say so many reprehensible, irresponsible things, and you allow it to happen. I mean, that perpetuation, that cycle of irresponsibility, we seem to be aiding and abetting that process. And I think it's important that going forward we take note. So overall, I think politicians would have to show the greatest deal of commitment, not just the talk. Indeed, when the president was elected, one of his first appointments was the National Security Minister, which is in line with the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act. But like Honorable Agaga has rightly stated, crime is on the ascendancy, and that is quite contradictory. That is, it's strange that we have the National Security Minister, we are, I think, with 2 deputies, and yet crime is on the rise. That means we are not doing something right. So let us go beyond the rhetoric, the talk, the sweet, sugar-coated words, and show the right level of commitment into dealing with the security situation in the country, from robbery to break-ins to the vigilante menace. Else, trust me, we are losing it within the international system. I've spoken with a number of diplomats, and trust me, you wouldn't want to know the kind of things they are saying about us.
Well, so we've been joined in the studio by Sami Jemfi, who is a communications officer for the National Democratic Congress. But Prof has indicated to me that you'd have to depart shortly. So Honorable James Agaga wanted to make some closing comments, but I'll ask, please hold on. Let Prof deal with the second topic. When we come back, we'll go to Sami Jemfi, and then we'll come to you. Can make that before you move to the next whole issue.
Thank you very much. I wouldn't like to dilute the sweet taste of what is going to come. I heard Sami, his comprehensive press conference, and then the batter from the MPP, and perhaps the input from the other 2 parliamentarians. So let me just raise some critical issues in the form of questions. This is a company that was is duly registered at the Registrar General's Department, and when you go through the documents, obviously you see the details of what you intend to do as a business entity in the registration documents. And even these days, if you attempt to form or register a small consultancy firm or a limited liability company, the related financial commitments that will come, your bank statements and everything, or your bank accounts, everything. So your first question is that, was Men's Gold running within the same regime? A couple of months ago, I think, rather say 2-3 months ago, when the statement was made, or the directive from the SEC, that they should cease operations around September or so, the finance minister was quoted as saying that prominent members of society, military officers, Ministry of Finance officials, and Bank of Ghana officials were all investors within the men's gold operation system. Then the deputy finance minister also was quoted as saying men's gold is dead. And at a breakfast meeting also, the senior minister, also the men's gold operations were not sustainable. You understand? Now you fast forward this to the Kumasi demonstration, and now the serious commitment, in quotes, from government in now addressing the matter. And you relate this to what was there before now, then you ask the question, is that the responsibility? Is that how far government will be responsible in this matter? And I think the finance minister even is now notoriously being quoted as saying that customers were what? Greedy. And I think you can see the furious reaction from the perhaps duped investors. Now, if you have the Securities and Exchange Commission, aided by law or supported by law, the Bank of Ghana, that now is seriously engaged in advertisement. Have you heard the Bank of Ghana advertisement now? In different language, Bank of Ghana. And the governor, who now comes on frequently with press conferences, governor of Bank of Ghana, guided by the financial operations by the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance itself. How come that we got ourselves involved in this? And the belated entourage, the trip to Dubai, only to come back to say that here you are with a gentleman who even instituted a weekly radio program on Xylophone FM to assuage the feelings or the anxiety of customers. And at one program, I heard him clearly saying, look, if we have even done any wrong, I'm appealing to prominent people. I'm appealing to the government and the state of institutions to direct us, to show us what we have to do. I heard him clearly. And in this country, and today, in a sovereign state, you send a delegation to go and plead with another government to release your own citizen to come and face what? Criminal investigation. You understand? So this underlies the point I made, that governance is cheap. We have made governance cheap. You have your citizens and you are a state institution, and this guy has registered, and the requirement is that you file your financial statement every year, don't you? With VAT service, with the GRA, is it Ghana Revenue Authority? So was Men's Gold doing that? And now that we say we want to freeze accounts and detect or track where funds have been, was he filing, or was the company filing its annual financial statement? And in so doing, was he keeping money in the house? Because ordinary small business, you must show all this, get your statement of account. Even political parties, we run political parties. You have to file your statement and you have to attach your audited. So, what business was this gentleman running? And before you even come to the conclusion that the business was not sustainable, that means you had an in-depth understanding of the business the fellow was running. I, even on the economic sense, say that I even challenge the argument that you cannot make 10% if I gave you 1,000 cedis a month and you are into any form of small business. You mean at the end of the month, from 1st January to 31st January, you cannot make more than 100 cedis. When you have to pick trotro now from any point to any point, in the day you can spend 5 cedis on trotro. So if you work from Monday to Saturday, that is 30 cedis, is that not it? And that is one leg. 30 cedis going back home. So you're spending about 200 cedis. Ask anybody, Trotro, here today, and I have a living example. So if I give you 1,000 cedis, honorable, you mean you cannot make, and I say give me 100 cedis out of your profit. You cannot make 100, 200, 300 cedis on 1,000 cedis a month. For you to say that if he collected people's money and invested, and he made more profit and gave me 10% out of his profit, you say it's not sustainable, but that's not the issue. But this is where the responsibility of a government to its citizens comes to the fore. And so the argument between NDC and MPP is not the issue. NDC brought out key issues, and you are in government. So you are the fellow we are looking up to. What somebody didn't do, and you read Dr. Esiame's account. So you cannot say that the previous regime didn't do anything, or the previous governor or the leadership of the Bank of Ghana didn't do anything. Assuming they didn't. That is why you are there. That is why you are there. Who are you protecting? At the moment, Bernard Madoff, is he not serving 150 years in prison? And he ran the second largest stock exchange on the New York Stock Exchange market. He was operating okay, but when he defaulted, the arms of the Lord did not spare him. Here we are, our president has never made a statement. Has never made a statement. So is that what we deserve? For me, I don't know, this saga, let it end for us now to run the commentary and see whether indeed customers will have anything back. But if I were a customer, I would say it would be a lotto one. My 2 bank I would have to drop if I were to get anything back. But this matter will not die. You see, it only, and you can see you can feel the fury and the anger. And I think people have backtracked. And in all these, have you heard of the finance minister? And we leave it to poor Kodio Ponkroma, who now has to play a balancing act. You understand? These are the critical issues that we need to look at. And I think the NDC communication officer brought fantastic points, backed by law, of course, with his background. And it's a matter that will be interrogated. And I think Parliament also has a role. And we'll see how far this goes. Government says it's committed. And I think you read a news piece when I was coming about Yoko and the statement that was made. So let's hope that order will be established. Thank you very much. Colleagues, I will listen to you.
Thank you very much. Prof is taking an early and so he has dealt with the second topic. We'll come back to Sami Jenfi because he will have to do 2 things for us. First and second, because Prof has already focused. If he starts, you have to move on to the men's gold issue, security and men's gold. And then we'll come to Honorable Alga. But let me just read a message from Pab MCGH. Albert Nana Kofi says that the Bible says those who guard their mouth and their tongues keep themselves from calamity. Any serious country will have arrested Kennedy immediately for question, telling people to be someone anywhere they meet him. And also if the person is seen on his premises as well, should be dealt with, and that you're ready to pay any amount of money afterwards. What does that mean, if not inciting people to harm him? I get shocked and so ashamed when I hear some so-called lawyers defending this irresponsible and reckless statement of Kennedy. But Senator, trust me, God will uncover every evil activity of evildoers and bring them to book in daylight. God have mercy on us all. There's one more set. Oboba, Senator, I agree with the Honorable MP. It could even be that this assassins got to know the identity of our deceased brother as a result of his image that was put out there. Because the community agreed to the fact that until that image from Ken's TV station, they were not aware that Ahmed was a member of Anas's team. Charles Nyame Asamankese says the MPP was so loud in opposition about corruption and how to fight it. They have come to power now, and sadly those who are helping to fight corruption have rather become their targets of assassination. Let's also not forget there has been 4 contract killings over the last month. RIP Ahmed, and regards to the next MP for our front plains, Macaulay Bakemo. That's an interesting. Well, let me just go to my Facebook page, because earlier on I had told people to share their comments there, because we're having issues with public messages. Agahua Julius Tahiro says that Senate number, why is it that anytime there's a case against Kennedy Japan, he goes to the media for public sympathy? The police will invite him for questioning. In other jurisdictions, Ken would have been picked up the very moment he made those unsavory comments meant to threaten the journalist. Ghana is sick, Kampa. I stand with Anas and his investigation team at this difficult time. May the truth prevail at all times. May the soul of Hussein Suwali rest in perfect peace. Hashtag 2020, change the bad change. Otunfo, convener of Crossfire Ghana, says, we don't have to blame it all on others. Is it true Ahmed and his friends saw two unknown young men on a motorbike parked at their sitting place for over 5 hours and no one engaged them? To our security service, how come when Ken showed this gentleman on his TV station, we're not proactive enough to invite him? Sometimes we wait for the untoward to happen before blaming people. A bounty? What about the taxi driver who was murdered in Asante Mampong about 3 days ago? Our country is just not safe. Simple. Governor Danan says, good morning to you and your panelists. The most corrupt, deceased, lousiest, visionless, insensitive, arrogant leader ever in the history of this country, 4 years, Nana Akufo-Addo. There's too much lawlessness being perpetrated by members of the NPP because the president himself is an epitome of lawlessness. Well, so those are just the messages on our Facebook page. Okay, let's listen to Sammy Jeffrey. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me. Very good morning to Agaga, whom I admire a lot, and the senior brother here, the security expert and Prof, who not so long ago took leave of us. Senator, I don't intend to belabor this issue about the killing of Ahmed Hussein Swali, because I believe that once the former Deputy Minister of Interior is here, you've done justice to the matters already. But just to indicate that as a political party, we commiserate with the family of the late investigative journalist, and we pray that the good Lord will grant his soul eternal rest. You know, these are sad and troubling times for all of us engaged in this, enterprise of politics and nation building. I don't know about you, Senator, but I don't feel safe under President Akufo-Addo. Nobody feels safe in this country. In the last month, in the past month, we've had, at least I can count about 5 or 6 cases where innocent citizens of this country have been brutally murdered in cold blood. No arrests have been made. These matters still remain unresolved. And if you look at the impunity and the nonchalance with which these murders are carried out, the gangster style, manner in which these murders are carried out, it reflects an emboldening of the criminals behind these, cases. People think that it is easy to commit crimes in Ghana today and get away with that. And that is why some of these things are happening. So I am alarmed, I am sad, because what happened to Hussein could have happened to any one of us. And it is important that government steps up to the plate. You see, anytime a matter like this arrives, and as a political party, the NDC comes out and speak, you hear people in the media say, oh, why are you politicizing the matter? As though, and sometimes what I tell them is that, do you understand the multi-party system of democracy we are running as a country? Are you gagging the NDC from expressing his opinions on national issues like this? The mere fact that we are criticizing the inertia, the ineptitude and the incompetence of government in managing the security situation in the country doesn't mean that we are playing, partisanship or politics with the matter. It is our responsibility as an opposition party to constructively criticize government where due and to keep them on their toes. And that is what we are doing. Because you see, it is the fundamental duty of government to guarantee our safety and security. That is why we vote. That is why our president, whom we elected, whom we pay with our taxes, is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. That is why his vice is the chairman of the police council. Honorable, is that not so? That is why we are paying under this government, a minister for national security, Honorable Kandapa, a minister of state at the presidency in charge of national security, Honorable Brian Echampo, a minister of defense and his two deputies, minister of interior and his two deputies. I don't even want to go into the other, security agencies, BNI, police service, and so on and so forth. Why are we doing all that? Why are we paying them with our taxes? To protect us and keep us safe. You understand? So, when you look at the fact that within 1 month, 5 unresolved murders, so far no arrest has been made. In other jurisdictions, police, officials would have been resigning by now. Ministers of state would have been answering questions about what they are doing to address these violent crimes and to keep all of us safe. So these incidences reflect a certain failure on the part of the Akufo-Addo government to live up to its fundamental responsibility of keeping the citizenry, safe. And we, as a political party, I'm talking about the NDC, we are demanding that government must outline a plan immediately, which sets out clearly and comprehensively strategies that are being put in place, measures that government is putting in place to resolve these matters, to apprehend the perpetrators, prosecute them, and to punish them for these crimes. It is only when we do that that we can serve some deterrence, to discourage others from doing so. If the killers behind this incident go scot-free, then they will be emboldened to come after, Sami Jenfi or Sena or whoever they disagree with or they have problems with. You understand? And what even makes the irresponsibility of government in this issue more glaring is the fact that, Sena, we knew that Swale was an investigative journalist whose cover had been blown by Kennedy and Japan. His pictures were shown on television. Everybody saw that. That is not what it was supposed to be because he is an undercover journalist. So immediately, our intelligence agencies, security agencies should have known that this gentleman was going to be a target. His life was at risk. Because as a result of what they do, like our security expert was saying, they've stepped on a lot of toes. They've exposed a lot of criminals in this country in service of the nation. And so some form of protection should have been given, these guys. We sat down. One of them have been shot. I don't know what they are doing about the other associates of Anas Arimi Yawanas and other workers at Tiger PI. Because he was not the only one who was a threat to some of these criminals out there. You see, so I think that we deserve better. We deserve better for a government which in our history has appointed the highest number of security appointees and ministers. We don't deserve the growing and alarming levels of insecurity we are witnessing in Ghana today. And just to touch on the demands and the calls for the arrest of Kennedy Japan with regards to this, I, agree to that position to some extent. And to another extent, I believe that we have to be cautious. Number one, I believe that Kennedy Japan must be invited, must be arrested, not necessarily in relation to the killing of Swale. Not in relation to that. His public utterances, the outrageous calls that he made on his network and on other networks for the assault of, Swale is enough for him to be arrested and prosecuted. Because if you look at Section 74, Honorable is here, of the Criminal and Other Offences Act of Ghana, Act 29. This is what it says. It says, whoever threatens any other person with unlawful harm, with intent to put that person in fear of unlawful harm, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. And when you are liable for a misdemeanor under this act, you can go to prison for about 5 years. Honorable, is that not so? Yes. So for me, this alone is enough grounds. Let's even say that Kennedy Japan has nothing to do with the matter. Let's even say that. But his public utterances, the threat of harm, alone is enough for us to arrest him, put him before court, and prosecuting for sin. That for me is fundamental. Even before we look at the killing or the murder of, Swale. Now, on the murder, I agree that he's a person of interest because of the threats and outrageous remarks he made, obviously. But we are cautioning that we do not overly focus on scapegoating Kennedy Japan, because there is a potential that when we do that, the main culprits, perhaps, the main potential culprits behind this heinous crime may walk free. Because I think, based on some of the information that we are picking, that there may be a more sinister plot behind this killing, which goes beyond Kennedy Japan. So yes, let us deal with him in relation to the threat of harm, because that in itself is an offense. In relation to the killing, let us deal with him as a person of interest. He's a suspect in the matter. But the investigations must be all-encompassing. Nobody must be left out, because this matter may involve certain higher ups in this guy. Look at the number 12, video documentary. Look at the people who were exposed in that documentary. Was Kennedy Japan part of them? He wasn't part. In fact, the beef of Kennedy Japan with Ahmed and Anaz's boss, was that they were planning to expose the president, whom he loved so much. And so all he was doing was in defense of the president, because he said he has evidence that they were planning to set up the president for disgrace and embarrassment. And he told us about how they arranged to meet the president in Dubai and so on. So whatever Kennedy Japan was doing, according to him, he was doing that in defense of the president. So now you understand me. So, and if you look at the people who were exposed, the number one casualty, apart from Kwesi Nyantakyi, the FA president, was President Akufo-Addo himself. Because it was through that we got to know about the bribery, syndicate at the office of the president. So I am saying that let us be open-minded with regards to the investigations. Nobody should be left out, no matter their exalted position in government or in this country. Let us look at people who have been, exposed by investigative works of said journalist and his company, and who may have reason to harm him or to kill him. Let us look at all of them comprehensively in these investigations, so that the real culprits may not, walk free. That is what I have to say on this matter. I don't know whether you want me to continue with the men's good matter or
yeah, so you continue with the men's good matter.
With the men's good matter.
The men's good matter.
Thank you. On the issue of men's good, you see, we believe that issue is more serious and grievous than what the Akufo-Addo government is reducing it to. Perhaps it is the biggest financial calamity ever to have befallen the Ghanaian people, because it involves the loss of investments and the life savings of thousands of our citizens who cut across all spheres of our national lives. Talking about teachers, nurses, doctors, artists, artisans, politicians, and so on, who have all been affected, pastors, churches, who have all been affected by this scandal. And so it is a serious matter. As we speak today, the grieving customers of men's good are going through a lot of pain and anxiety. Some have lost their lives. Some weep and cry every day, because I know some of them personally. And some are even contemplating suicide. That is why, for me, this is a very serious matter which must be treated as such. Unfortunately, and that is why we call the press conference, to register our profound sympathies to the customers, to comfort them, and to assure them of our unwavering support towards the struggle and ensuring that government, the complicit government of President Akufo-Addo, restores their lost investments to them. But not just that, we called the press conference to express our disappointment and disgust with government's handling of this matter. Since this matter broke, government has issued a statement titled "The Position of Government on the Mensgo Scandal." And if you read the document, what government is saying is that we don't owe customers of Mensgo any responsibility. This is a civil contractual issue. You are entitled to seek legal remedies and retrieve your monies, and so leave us out. We believe that that position is insensitive, it is irresponsible, atrocious, and unconscionable. No responsible government is supposed to take such, a posturing or such a position on a serious matter like this.